Welcome aboard, Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com. How are you going, Kyler? You were not up in Evanston last night, were you?
I was not. No,
I was going to say, man,
we had the three other guys there.
Yeah, that's a late trip because Mason, Keegan, and Kevin up. Yeah, it was. That's why I didn't go. I'm like, I was up there last year. It's too hard to do this show, man, when you're in Evanston for a 9:00 game. But a game that we've been talking about for Indiana that got away. It's another game that they could have won this game. They got into a hole early, and the reason it surprised me is because they did not have the intensity that I would have thought that they knew they had to have. The same intensity they had that they came out with against Purdue, they did come out with in the second half and played great. Had they done that in the first half, this conversation is different. Indiana probably wins that game by 15 because there are so many other factors that I listed just a minute ago on the way out of the last segment. You know, they met 14 of 14 at the line for Northwestern, while Indiana left 5 free throws. They missed 5 free throws, only shooting 75%. Turnovers, 13-6. They didn't get hurt off of points off, but those are 13 opportunities that you don't get to score. So you take half of those, that's say 12 points at the minimum, off of 6 scored baskets. There's 12 more points. So there were points just left on the floor all over the place for Indiana. You know, the officiating was horrific, but you got to deal with that stuff. That's like dealing with a home crowd or something. Maybe not always as bad as it was last night, but they had enough opportunities to overcome that and win that game. But a great, great, great comeback. We've got to give them credit for that and showing the heart to do that.
Right. Yeah. First of all, you got to give Indiana a lot of credit for them to make adjustments at halftime to come out with a well more thought of game plan. You know, how to control, Northwestern's guards. I mean, they held Chase Adige, who killed them in the first half with 11 points, held him to 1 of 8 shooting in the second half. But, it's a heartbreaking loss. But at the same time, if you're Indiana, you cannot dig yourself that big of a hole in the first half on the road, especially against a really good Northwestern team who's, proven that time and time again this year. I don't know. You look at they tried to feed Trace Jackson Davis. They got him more involved in the second half. I feel like in the first half he wasn't that involved. And you credit, I look at Race Thompson. I feel like he hasn't gotten a lot of love this morning. He had a really good game yesterday. Had a really good bounce back game yesterday. He did what he was supposed to do. And what makes that front court work is when Trace Jackson Davis is double teamed and Race comes in, slides in, he's wide open. That worked out tremendously. The ball movement by the bigs by Indiana in the second half, which is outstanding. Malik Renew came in, had some great passes. He kind of filled into that Race Thompson role as Race was on the bench. You got to give credit to Indiana just the fight overall. The turnovers are still a major issue. They were a major issue at the Michigan game. Indiana squeaked out that win. But, eventually, you get above 10 turnovers, it's going to cost you in a game like this. This is a game that Indiana could have won. They showed a lot of fight in that second half. But it comes down to the first half. You can't dig yourself that big of a hole. It's almost like kind of a carbon copy of the Northwestern Indiana game earlier in the season. I mean, they dug themselves a hole, fought back, got it within 1 point, tied the game this time around. But, Boo Booey made the play at the end of the game. Indiana didn't have enough time to answer that. So tough loss, but I mean, it's just one of those ones where you just move on to the next one and you try to get a bounce back win versus Illinois.
Well, and to that point, you talk about the final play with Boo Booey. Was there some sort of explanation given? And I didn't see the post game because I'm not staying up after a 9:00 tip. I'm just going to say that right now.
Lucky you.
But I wanted to know if there was an explanation that Mike Woodson gave, because to me, the goal, I don't know why they allowed Boo Booey to have the ball in that situation and allow him to
unobstructed
on Trey Galloway.
Unobstructed. Unobstructed. But put somebody on him, make him pass.
Not that get the ball out of his hands, even if it's an uncontested jump shot. I think you live with that as opposed to Boo Booey drive who killed you all game. And the other thing was I honestly don't remember the final play, and I haven't gone up and watched it. But was Trey to me? Trey should have been around the basket, knowing that if that's going to be the
he was
the
under the
offensive
basket.
play. Did he come out to help a little bit? Because I don't
it
remember
was
anything.
one-on-one. It was one-on-one with Trey.
That's what I thought, and I don't know why there wasn't some sort of help there.
Well, he had to help. He had to help catch Trey Galloway when he went flying through the air after the push-off. And if you think I'm kidding, look at the pictures that I put up a little 3-section picture. He's literally catching him. Trey Galloway's arms, and I'm not kidding, his arms are back like this. His feet are out like that. He is literally flying through the air.
But you have to know that they're not going to probably call that at the end of the game. And
probably.
So this is where
they're definitely not. They're not going to call it because they're guiltless.
Trey Galloway probably could have helped his cause there with that, push off if he would have fell to the floor. I think right there would have been.
He couldn't because Trey Jackson Davis caught him.
Well, all right,
I swear to God, he's literally. You can see it. He's literally right behind. If Trey Jackson Davis is not there, Trey Galloway goes flying. He does not catch himself. Just look at the picture. There's no way he could have caught himself. He is literally, his arms are back like this, and he is going at an angle. Trey Jackson Davis caught him.
Yeah. Back to my question.
He was under the basket. Right, he was too far under the basket, Dustin. I agree with you. He was too far under the basket. Trey Jackson Davis was.
I know, but I'm asking if there was some sort of explanation. Because I don't understand why they didn't try to get the ball out of Boo Booey's hands in that situation.
Right, and I from what I can remember, Indiana tied the game. They had that inbounds play. Northwestern turned the ball over. Indiana ties the game with the Trace Jackson Davis, little layup there. From what I remember, I think there was about 30 seconds left in the game. It was pretty, I wouldn't say obvious is the right word, but it was kind of clear that Boo Booey was going to be the guy to take that last shot. He dribbled up the top of the key for a little bit. There's this talk. I heard you mention it earlier. If you don't know if you would have put Trey Galloway on him, I look at it as if Xavier Johnson was in, obviously Xavier Johnson's going to be there. But when I look at the next best defender, perimeter defender for Indiana, I look at Trey Galloway. So I don't think they had a whole lot of options if they were going to go one-on-one with that.
Here's a problem. If go back and watch, Trey Galloway's on him, but constantly during that play and before he initiates his go, he's looking to his right over his right shoulder 4 or 5 times. And on that last time, he's bringing his head back, and that's about the time Boo Booey makes his move. And there's a split second that Boo Booey gets because he keeps turning his head. And I don't know what in the hell he's looking at. Why would you be looking at anything other than Boo Booey, who is right in front of you with the basketball? If you cannot, because they had been screaming that he can't go left, that he wasn't going to go left. And so he's constantly looking right like he's going to get a screen for him to go left when they're saying he can't go left. So what in the hell was he looking at is what I want to know. Focus on Boo Booey. Get in front of him. Force him to go left. Move to your left a little bit to make him go that way. And they didn't do that.
Well, I think Kyler brings up a good point in Trey Galloway being a better perimeter defender. So it makes me wonder, and they mentioned this during the broadcast after the game last night, earlier in Boo Booey's career, and maybe even earlier this season, that's a situation where he's going to try to create something off the dribble and take a step back jumper and try to win it that way. And in that case, I think that Trey Galloway is a good defender for that. But the fact that he was smart enough to go to the basket, and I think he knew he had the speed and he had the angle, and he was going to get away with that bump. It didn't matter. It makes more sense now because it makes me think that from a defensive standpoint, Mike Woodson is probably thinking he's going to take some sort of jump shot here, and Trey can put a hand in his face and make that difficult on him.
Yeah, I would have thought, going in, I felt like Trey Galloway was going to force Boo Booey into kind of a tough 15-foot jumper. The reason why Trace Jackson Davis obviously didn't help over because he didn't want to give up the lob bucket to their big guy. I can't think of his name right now. But, at the end of the day, it just, no call or not, Northwestern just, they made the tough play there. They got the much-needed bucket there. They made the winning play. It's a heartbreaker for Indiana. It really is because they really did fight back. they fought back and got it back to tied game. And I feel like they did. If this game were to go into overtime, I feel like Indiana did have enough momentum to get that win. It's hard to beat a team twice in the Big Ten. Northwestern, you got to give a lot of credit to them coming in.
Hard to beat a team 3 times, so that's a good. If Indiana meets them in the Big Ten tournament, they've got that going for them.
And there's a good possibility that they do meet in the Big Ten tournament. Very good possibility. So
absolutely, very good.
Yeah. So, but I mean, obviously you go back to the hole that they dug. I look at the defense. The defense in the first half reminded me of the defense that Indiana had against Penn State. Against Northwestern, against Iowa, they were just, straight line drives were killing them, leaving shooters open. Luckily they adjusted for that. It's a tough one, but I feel like teams in the past with Indiana, they don't come back. They don't have that fight to come back and win this game. So, I mean, like I said earlier, it's just one of those games where like, yeah, it's tough, but you got to move on. You got to bounce back. Really good Illinois teams coming into town. They're going to be looking for some vengeance. You got to protect home floor moving forward.
Well, if nothing else, I would think that they would have learned now that after the game that they played against Purdue and how they played, the style they played, with the intensity they played from start to finish, for the most part, was only matched in the second half against Northwestern. But look at the success they had against Northwestern in the second half. They were obviously they outscored Northwestern 42-25 in the second half. But they have to bring that game in, game out. They have to learn that and understand that it's not just for Purdue. It's not just a happy game against this team. They've got to bring that game in and game out if you want to win every game.
Well, they're not going to win every game. That's number one. Number two, they've done it 7 games in the last.
They've done it to win every game.
They're not going to win every game.
If you bring that intensity, you might. You're not. If you don't, I can promise you.
You're asking 18 to 22-year-olds to bring it every single day for 30 to 32 games in the regular season, plus the Big Ten tournament, plus the NCAA tournament. I don't subscribe to that. Do you subscribe to history? You're not going to. What happened in 1976? 50 years ago, really? Are you kidding me? Look at all the distractions
right now. How many teams have won? But the sheer fact that you're saying
one team has one loss. Wait. No, Houston has 2 losses. Don't they?
To play intense. You have to be expected to play intense from start to finish. If you don't, that's bull crap. Yes, you do have to be expected to play like that from start to finish. Crap.
In a 30-game season, it's not going to happen. There's going to be some.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you have to be expected to play that way, and you have to expect to do that. If knowing that the minute you don't, you're most likely not going to win.
Okay, well, I'm just saying they've done it 7 times in the last 9 games, and they did it.
I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing something out.
Well, but they're not. I mean, first of all, when you're in the Big Ten, it's going to be tough to do that.
Okay, but you can't go to Northwestern and start like they did, and I don't know how you would.
But it's going to happen sometimes. There's days when I hop on this show or I do my job and I just don't feel good. Like it's not like today sucks for whatever reason.
Okay, so they must have
have that same thing.
They must have felt great in the second half, then, by that logic.
They probably did. Maybe they got chewed out. Maybe they heard the right motivational speech. I'm just saying sometimes you get off the bus and you just don't have it.
You can't say not having a good day is changed by getting chewed out. Those are 2 different, because that means
I didn't say they got chewed out. Maybe there was a motivational speech. Motivation doesn't have to come from an ass chewing.
That does not. That defeats the whole purpose of not being able to bring that. But
not necessarily.
Kyler, it was a.
I just want to point out. I think first of all, I think we're forgetting it's also tough to win on the road in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Indiana, visibly,
especially when you get down 21.
Trace Jackson Davis right now, he is tired. This Indiana team is tired. They have fought their tails off the past 9 games to get back into contention, in the top 3 of the Big Ten. They're going to have games like this. They're going to have games like that. And you got to give them credit for making the adjustments at halftime and showing that fight. You got to at the end of the day. But they are tired. Back-to-back road games like this. There was an exhausting game versus Michigan. Northwestern's a much better team than Michigan. It was a tough game. If Indiana would have squeaked by and got that win, I mean, that would have been great. But at the end of the day,
horrific. That would have been an unbelievable win.
Yes, it would have. So, but Indiana's still in good position. The sky's not falling for Indiana fans. They're still in good position. They got a really good opportunity
God, no.
to bounce back versus Illinois.